Hello, and welcome to the Journey to CEO Success. I'm Melissa Saunders, your host for this podcast, and we're streaming live on Patrick Thean's LinkedIn account. Welcome, Patrick.
Hi, Melissa. Glad
How
to be
are
here.
you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thanks. So, Patrick is a strategy execution expert. He's a best selling author and international speaker. He grew his first company to achieve an Inc. 500 ranking. He's the creator of the Think, Plan, Do process. He's also co founder and CEO of Rhythm Systems. And he's co author of the Amazon best selling book, The Journey to CEO Success. And as you see right now, we're putting up a QR code. You can get that on Amazon Kindle today for just $9.99, which, now that I think of it, would make an awesome present this holiday season. So buy it today for that CEO that's already there or one that might be thinking about starting his own or her own company. Now, today we're going to be talking about making culture a competitive advantage. In your book, Patrick, you tell the story of Dave, a hire you made.
Yeah. So in my one of my previous companies, Dave was a new hire, and I actually brought him on as a chief operating officer,
Mm-hmm.
and it was clear when I hired him that he was well aligned with core values. But after a few weeks, I noticed that he wasn't bringing up issues in our weekly meetings. I would ask him, "Hey, what problems do you have?" And he would say, "I have no problems. Everything's good." And after a couple of meetings, I pulled him aside and I said, "Dave, either I'm stupid or you're stupid, because before you arrived, I had problems. And so after you arrived, there's still problems. So tell me what they are." So he told me some of the issues. And then I asked him, I said, "Well, why would you tell me there are no problems? Why?" And so he shared with me how he came from larger consulting firms where you don't bring problems to the partners. In fact, you bring problems to the partners without solutions, you get fired. I shared with him, I said, "Okay, now in my company, though, I don't want that." So he had a behavior pattern created by working for other companies where he had to solve problems by himself and present the solution in a nice bow. But I desired a different kind of company. I desired a company behavior of collaboration, not solving things by yourself. Because if somebody else is solving things by themselves and you don't know about it, you potentially could get blindsided by the problem if they fail
Sure.
to solve it. So I don't want to be blindsided at the last minute with a problem. So therefore, I believe that you should bring problems to the table, collaborate together, and solve
Right,
them. So
right.
now, this is a key point here. Neither way is good or bad. Neither way is good or bad. And that's where a lot of people make the mistake of thinking one way is bad or one way is good. Neither is good or bad. I can't emphasize that enough. So it really depends on the company culture and behavior that you are designing for your company. So when,
Hmm.
when they came to me from the other companies, and that was how they trained him, if he had continued working in that firm, he would have been very successful.
Yeah, right,
If
right.
he brought my pattern, my behavior, my mindset of collaboration and solving problems together back to the other company, he probably would have failed, because he would have come to them to say, "Hey, I got a problem. Let's work on it together." And they would have said, "What the hell's wrong with you? Go freaking solve it and come back to us," right? So as you
Right.
see, it's not good or bad. It's really what you have designed for your company. So the big lesson here is, look, you got to decide what the behavior patterns you want in your culture needs to create that for you. So if you do that, it will then become a competitive advantage. So you need to be intentional about how you design your working culture.
I got to ask Patrick, was Dave able to change his behavior and start bringing problems to the table?
Yeah, he was actually. He was kind of surprised, because after we had that discussion, I shared with him that he needed to change his mindset
Mm-hmm.
and be more collaborative. He said he would try, and I shared with him that try wasn't good enough. He had to achieve it, and if he wasn't committed to achieving it, he should just resign by this week. And he was surprised. And he was
Oh, yeah.
surprised that it was such a serious thing. And I shared with him that the culture was really critical, and more importantly, I wanted him to have a long and happy journey with me. And I shared with him how if he couldn't change this aspect of his working behavior, he would not have a good time. We'd be
Right.
struggling working together. He would not enjoy his journey. So I cared about him almost as much as I cared about the
Sure.
company, right?
Sure.
I wanted my company to work a certain way, but I cared about him too. I want him to have a successful journey. So he did. He took it very seriously, and he came back and he said, "Look, I don't know if I will be 100% successful, but I will do my very best, and every week we'll check back, and you can coach me." So to me, that's the best. That's the best. That's an honest, vulnerable approach to changing behavior. And if you take that approach, vulnerability and a willingness to change
Openness.
behavior, it's going to work. So Dave worked with me at that company for many years, and he was very
That's
successful.
great. That's great to hear. So, you know what? Let's just get to the heart of this chapter. Why is culture such a competitive advantage?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, more than ever today, um, employees are empowered to decide what they want to do with their lives, where they want to work, and who they want to work for. I think
Very
people
true.
are realizing that, you know, and there's lots of things happening that is enabling this. Combination of being working from home or hybrid, things like that, has made some companies more willing to hire from afar,
Mm.
and now it's all over the place. Some companies want you to come back to work. Some companies are happy with you not being in the office. So people can choose now. People can choose, and so people I notice are voting with their hearts and their feet. In other words, if they don't want this culture or this work behavior pattern, they will vote with their feet. They'll leave you. So
You know, I think
they don't feel the need to be stuck with you.
that's right. I think there's a famous song. These boots are made for walking, and I guess that's what they do.
That's right. So, we are in a competitive war for talent. It's not easy to hire, even today, but it's even harder to hire and hold on to great talent. In 1995, Steve Jobs had a quote where he said, "One great coder, which means programmer for him, is the equivalent of 100 average coders." So he said, "One
Wow.
great is 100 times worth of one average." And so I don't know if that's true, frankly. I don't know if 100x is really true, but
Mhm.
but I have seen people do stuff with a small SWAT team of say four, five, six people that when they compete with other folks with resources 10 times their size, and they've won. So I would share with you that not just one human being, but a core team of great people working on something together has have demonstrated 10x productivity work against average people.
Hmm.
So imagine that imagine that if your culture can help you attract talent, and if you can actually mold them into a team that
Hmm.
is highly productive and keep them, it could give you a 10x cost advantage, right? Speed advantage, right, over your competition.
For sure. For sure. I think we've talked about it before where what if you could build a company with all A players aligned in such a way where their mindsets, their behavior, it's collaborative, if that's the kind of company that you want. So collaborative, smart people working together. I can see how that could get you 10 times the same output as a company with smart people kind of marching to their own beat.
And very much so. So, people on this podcast need to stay tuned for the next chapter, because in that one, I talk about what really an A player is. And an A player that
Mm.
you mentioned isn't just about delivering
Yeah.
results, it's about delivering results in a way, in the right behavior pattern, so you be very collaborative with other team members. In fact, you could have a what I call a maverick, a person that delivers great results but is flying solo, not collaborative, and that person might actually cause you more harm. But that's a teaser for our
Oh,
next
nice.
podcast. Yeah,
Thank you. You're doing my job for me, Patrick. Awesome.
glad to help. Glad to.
You do talk a lot about core values. And I guess to me, I think of those as like values that you would do even if no one was watching. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. Core values are the unchanging fundamental values that define the heart of your organization. And usually these values will drive some of your behavior, but not all.
Hmm.
So these values are what you hold on to and live, even if no one was watching you. And that to me is the real test. If no one's watching you and you're still practicing these values, that means you're really
Who you are.
adopting, right? So you hope that all your employees will embody the values and demonstrate them that you've documented. And what I teach is that you've got to be highly intentional. You really need to document your core values, and find practical ways to make them work. For us, I think that if you can create very simple phrases, stay away
Mhm.
from corporate speak, like
Oh, yeah, I
the
agree.
one the ones that everyone would like to do are things like creative, innovative. Well, it's kind of corporate speak, but I don't know how to behave innovative. So you want some simple phrases that you can use to describe behavior, make it easy to remember and to discuss regularly.
Yeah, I think you did a really great job for Rhythm Systems, actually, because ours are go the second mile, keep smart, family is a blessing. Which one? Be appreciative. And this might be my favorite, and it's the only time I've ever heard it. No TDC, which is defined here as no thinly disguised contempt. Tell me a little bit about that.
So the no TDC one. So first of all, you'll notice, right? One, two, three, four, five. All five of these values are tiny little phrases
Mm-hmm.
that are pretty unique to my company, to our
Yeah.
company, right? So no TDC actually was born out of frustration at one of my first companies where we had these great programmers, but they would get upset with each other because somebody would make a mistake. And so what would happen is, let's say John makes a mistake in the code and John's good, but by making a mistake in that particular line of code, it really affected somebody else's performance or somebody else's job or
Mm.
caused somebody to run extra cycles to make up for that. And instead of discussing it, they would have what I now call thinly disguised contempt. So if you said to this person, let's say you said to David, "Hey David, I'm gonna create a new team. I'm gonna put John on your team." And David may look at me and go, "Well,
Yeah, I
John's
don't know
great.
about
John's
that, Brian.
great, but
Yeah.
but put him on Sam's team. Give me somebody else." And I'll
Hmm.
say, "Well, what's wrong with John?" He goes, "No, he's nothing wrong with John. I just don't think he fits this team for the skill that we're looking for." Well, first of all, that's bullshit. Like that
Yeah.
was not true at all. It's just that Dave didn't want to work with John anymore.
Yeah.
And he never discussed it, never solved the problem. So the problem with hiring smart people is smart people and intelligent people are really demanding. And even the best of the best can disappoint each other.
Hmm.
And so in this case,
Very true.
what I noticed in that company was people started not wanting to work with each other, and it was more and more difficult. So I realized that they were not resolving issues. So no TDC is really about resolving issues. So if you have a problem or somebody disappointed you, before what will happen is we're all human. We'll get what I call thinly disguised contempt in that, like in that story. And what you want to do is just go address it and just go say, "Hey, Melissa, this disappointed me, and I just want you to know about it." And you would say, "Okay, Patrick, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that," or "Yes, I did realize that. I've corrected the mistake. I've learned from that." We'd have that discussion, and then
Sure.
goes away, and then I'm happy to continue working with you. So no TDC is our way of getting people to clear the slate. If
Hmm.
it got messy, if you disappointed me, I disappointed you. We want to just clear the slate and be able to continue working with each other happily. So that's
Yeah.
one of those continuous health things that we have in our firm that's worked pretty well.
For those CEOs or leaders who already have a company that's established, but maybe they don't have core values that are listed or talked
Yeah.
amongst their employees, can you just make these up now? How would a person go about that?
Yeah, so most of us who already have companies in existence don't have the luxury of deciding what these values are. They already exist, so they already are. In fact, Jim Collins, who is the master of core values, has an exercise, and he calls it, basically you're gonna create an ambassador that has to go meet the Martians, and he
Uh-huh.
calls it Mission to Mars, where
I like that.
where the Martians don't speak English, so they only learn based on your behavior. So his exercises, you kind of you kind of go figure out who are the two, three best people that are good representatives of you, and you ask questions like, what is it about the behavior that does that you like, that works? And then I have added to that to say, let's also go find a couple of people that have not worked out here, people that have been fired
Oh,
because
yeah,
of
that's
behavior,
interesting. And
and
see
find out what
what?
are the behaviors that failed, and the reverse or the opposite of those behaviors are probably the good behavior. So the bottom line here is that if you already have a company, then these values already exist. What you want to do is you want to pick them out, and you might be able to tweak it a little bit, but it's really hard to make wholesale changes, because if you imagine your company's been running for years and years, these people have been behaving this way for years.
Right.
So you want to harness it, you want to clarify it, and you want to choose the best words to communicate it. But if you can do that, harness it, sharpen it, you can still be very, very powerful. If you need to change one or two, it takes a lot of effort, and change management can be done, but it's hard to. I think the point I'm trying to make is you can't just wake up and go, I want these five values to be
Yeah.
mine.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
if your people don't behave that way, then
It's not going to
they're
work.
not the values, right?
Yeah. Right. Right. Now, we've been talking about core values, and there's a lot of books out there about core values, but really in your book, you really hone in on mindsets. Why is that?
So my book is about giving you what I call uncommon learnings. And core values are very important, but there are lots of books, as you said, written about it. The uncommon learning here is what Michael and I discovered is that behavior really comes from a combination of your core values and the mindsets, what you've set your mind to, that are laid on top of that. And
Okay.
so for me, I'm looking for practical behavior solutions. So in other words, what? So I'll give you one very quick example. In our company, we have started moving to to lean in the mindset of kind of leaning in, taking more risk, and not being afraid of making mistakes. Now, you could live our core values. You just mentioned all of them. Go the second mile, keep smart, family's a blessing, be appreciative, no TDC. You could live all those core values and still have a mindset of perfection, not leaning in,
Hmm.
wanting to be right the first time. And that mindset very different from a mindset of saying, I'm going to lean in, I'm going to try, I'm going to make mistakes, and it's okay. So this
Hmm.
mindset is really more about the willingness and ability to make mistakes, learn quickly, and move on. So that
So I guess.
mindset is something that we lay on top of our core values, and that has really helped
Mhm.
us.
I mean, I guess everything that you're saying, it's how you approach a situation, correct?
So that's right. It's how you approach a situation, but it's how. So when I use the word mindset, right? So I give you an
Mhm.
example. Your mindset could either be we're willing to make mistakes, or your
Okay.
mindset could be we have to be perfect first time out.
Gotcha.
And my point is that if your mindset is we got to be perfect first time out, you are gonna take a lot longer to test stuff, right?
Hmm.
If your mindset is we're willing to make more mistakes, then you're gonna be more prototyping stuff. So that's what I'm saying
Interesting. I
is
see
it
the
depends.
difference.
So that mindset will then decide whether or not you have some behavior patterns, regardless of your core values.
Hmm.
So that's why,
I see the
to me,
difference
it's the
now.
combination of your core values and the mindsets you have that make it work.
And I guess all of this stuff together, core values and mindsets, equal in behavior, that's really your company culture. And,
Yes.
I think in this chapter and in the book, you talk about how culture will really attract the people that you want and then retain
Right.
them.
Hence the competitive advantage part that we talked
Yeah,
about. Right?
right.
Yes.
Yeah. And it makes it, I guess, what struck me when I interviewed actually with Rhythm Systems is you said pretty bluntly, I want to work with people I like, and, get along with. I want to come to work every day excited because, we work, I guess, 70% of our lives. Tell me more about that.
Well, you're gonna spend 70% of your waking hours at work,
Unbelievable.
and so I. This is why I think in the old days when employees felt less empowered, they stuck it out when they weren't happy. They stuck out
Mm-hmm.
with a bad boss, et cetera, et cetera. But today, employees feel more empowered, partly because of the how the industry has been. If I go back 20 years, people had jobs that lasted a long time.
Hmm.
Today, people talk about the gig economy. The gig economy is you don't even work for a company; you work for yourself, and you do a gig at a time.
Right,
So
right.
you see on one spectrum, you've got, hey, I got a job with IBM or whatever, and I'm there, I'm a lifer. And then on the other side of the spectrum, all the way to the other side, I'm doing gigs. I have full control of
Hmm.
my life. I do whatever the heck I want. And when I need to eat food, I do a gig. My career
Hmm.
path is what I do for myself. The career path within a company is meaningless to me because this company fires me and lays me off when they need to, right? So you have these spectrums over here and over here. And now, not most people are not doing gig stuff. That's pretty risky, but most people have moved away from I'm going to depend on the company fully. Most people have shifted somewhere in the middle, and then the explosion of opportunity, like
Yes,
especially
options.
in the U.S.,
Hmm.
opportunities abound. Even it's just amazing kind of opportunities we have in the U.S. And so therefore the flow of opportunities in this great country, combined with people's maturity to think about, look, I'm working 70% of my life at work. I want to love where I work. I don't want to hate it. I don't want to have to endure it. I want to, be inspired. I want to like where people I work with and
Heck
things like that.
yeah.
Even I have changed, when I started this company 20 years, 18 years ago, I made a promise to myself. I said, I am only going to work with people I love to work with,
Hmm.
period. Like, I don't need another reason to say I'm not hiring you.
Yeah, right.
If
Yeah.
it, for whatever reason, I don't know. I can't explain everything, but if we don't get along in an interview, I don't feel the need to hire someone just because they have great skill. So,
Hmm.
I only want people to be here that enjoy working with me. When I walk into the office, I want to see your face and go, "Hey, Melissa, I'm happy to see you." Right? Versus, "Oh
Hmm.
my God, I hope Melissa doesn't come in today." Right? So,
Yeah, no
so,
kidding.
so to me, that's important to me, and I think more and more people are feeling that way.
Yeah, to me, when you go into a company, either you work there, or even if you're a customer and you're going into, different companies around there, you can really tell who loves their culture and really who hates it. I know for me, one behavior is like they will just look engaged and happy and smiling. Maybe they're whistling. What does a person who hates their culture, what does that look like to you?
So the world calls this quiet quitting, where if you don't enjoy where you're working, I don't want to go so far as to say they hate the culture, but I would say that they are not enjoying their work, and
Mhm.
they don't have passion over the mission of the company. All those things add up to make a person feel like, well, it's just a job.
Yeah, they're just doing
It's
it,
just
checking
a
off a
job.
box.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'll tell you a really quick story about
Okay.
my daughter, Joy, who works for Blue Origin. And shortly after she went there, she did a project that had good results. And Blue Origin did something really amazing. When Jeff Bezos took his flight into orbit, he brought with him a sack of coins. And these coins have been to all he did was bring a sack of Blue Origin coins, with their core values and stuff, and it went up into space and came back. So to tell her that she was important to the company, they gave her one of these coins. And so Joy calls me really excited and says, "Dad, I've got a coin." And I said, "Okay, fine. Tell me about this coin." She says, "Oh my God, Dad, this coin has been to space." And then she said, "I checked out on eBay that this coin is worth $500. I could actually sell it for $500." And I said, "Great. Are you going to sell it?" She goes, "No, this coin has been to space. I'm never going to sell it." So you see how this one coin,
Mhm.
this act of appreciation, really inspired my daughter. Um, and she shared with me over time, she's been there now almost 2 years, and she shared with me over time that she is passionate about their company's purpose. But she wasn't when she first started, right? And when she first started, she said, it was cool. I want to try. It was a cool company, and she liked
Sure.
the idea of working there. But today, my daughter is highly inspired
Right. She
to work.
wouldn't go anywhere else. I think that makes all the difference. And also in the book, your co-author talks about how he made, a lot of hires in the senior management to be able to kind of handle the company that had grown from 400 to 1,000. And he
Yes.
definitely noticed those new hires had a different way of thinking and working, and
Yes.
he needed to really identify that pretty quickly and try to figure out what that meant to his bottom line. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, that's a really good story, actually, and it is in
Yeah.
the book. People should read it. It's a really good story. But the big lesson we learned, because he was hiring very strictly for core values, and he does a good job of that. But Avid Exchange was growing really fast and already at a certain size. So he was trying to bring in people who've been on this growth trajectory before. So he was hiring people with a lot of experience. And he learned a few things. One is that experience is only valuable if the person has a mindset of curiosity. This is very much connected to practice number one in this book about being curious. But
Hmm.
Michael learned a few things. He learned that these people came with different mindsets. Now he tested for core values, and they all loved the Avid Exchange core values, and they passed all the core values discussions. But they brought in new mindsets. They brought in a new scaling mindset. They had a different perspective on the company. They saw Avid Exchange as a startup, but Avid Exchange was not a startup. I mean, they had 400 employees. But to someone who came from a company with 6,000 employees, Avid Exchange was tiny, right? But for someone who worked at Avid Exchange from zero to where it is today, Avid Exchange is big. So the new
Hmm.
guys come in thinking Avid Exchange is a startup, and they're using language like that without realizing that they were being disrespectful unintentionally to people who worked here for the last 15 years. And that the people who've been here for the last 12, 15 years were like, we're not a startup. We're like 400 plus people. I mean, we're a big company, right? But if you came from Bank of America or eBay or some other big company, Avid Exchange is tiny. So
That makes
so so
sense.
the mindsets were important, and unfortunately, because of some of these different mindsets and a lack of curiosity, it created an old Avid Exchange group versus a new Avid Exchange group. And it was really a battle of the mindsets. What now, Michael was able to solve this, and Avid Exchange today is on the Nasdaq Stock Exchange. They're doing great. But you got to read the book to understand more about what Michael did to solve that. But
Oh,
it
yeah.
was really good. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's really interesting. I know we're getting to the end of our time, and you do talk about 5 trends that are emerging around a culture. And I think we've already talked about some of those: passion and interest, flexibility to work from home. Talk to me a little bit more about how compensation is more than just salary in a lot of these people who are just entering the workforce.
Yeah, so the trends, there are a couple of trends, there are a few trends, right? Passion and interest is a trend, flexibility to work from home, prioritizing life over work is another trend, empowered to make decisions, and wanting to make a difference, not just a job. And the last one you asked about, compensation is more than just a salary.
Mhm.
So holistically, most people think of compensation, the old way of thinking of compensation is just how much I pay you. But I've seen that compensation is more than just that. I had an employee that once has had this new child that she wanted to spend time with,
Hmm.
and so she said, "You know what, Patrick, I really would enjoy, um, you know, knowing that on Friday afternoon I can take a longer lunch from 12 to 2 p.m. and just have a longer lunch and spend a time with my child."
Hmm.
Um, and she said, is that okay? And I said, what? And I educated her. First of all, not only is it okay, I said, why don't you take at least half a day off on Friday? Get your work done within the 4.5 days. And then you can take that half day off and just spend the whole afternoon with your son. How about that?
Hmm.
She said, wow, would you really let me do that? And I explained to her, I said, you need to understand that this is part of your compensation. In other
Hmm.
words, she's trading off some cash for this kind of flexibility.
Sure.
So I made sure she understood that compensation is more than just money. Compensation could be time off, could be social causes, could be a lot of different things. And so I would encourage all leaders to think beyond money.
Hmm.
Compensation is more than that, and if you can figure out how to help people see that, it could become very powerful for you.
Yeah, I think probably in other companies, because of their more strict rules, maybe about timekeeping, they would have lost that person to,
Yeah.
another company, that she would have gone somewhere else. But I guess it all boils down to the right people for your company won't leave because they're surrounded by people with common mindsets. They believe in core values, and, they're seeing real results.
Yes.
So
Totally.
yeah, I love this chapter. I know our listeners probably do too. We are putting up the QR code one last time. I really encourage people to buy the book. Like you mentioned, it is filled with little nuggets that you've learned over the course of 25 plus years coaching CEOs, growing companies. And I think it would be a really great stocking stuffer. So thank you so much, Patrick, for your time today. And I want to encourage everyone to listen in to our next podcast. We always come live on Fridays at 11:30. So until then, hopefully your journey is a good one. Bye now.
Thank you, Melissa.
Bye.